Now pleased to be joined by the new head coach at Minnesota. He is Niko Medved. Niko, welcome. Does this feel like a dream right now?
You know what? It's interesting. Like it is. There's been moments, but as you know, in these jobs, you just put your head down and go, right? With the recruiting and the staff and the practices and everything. It's a new place, but you're kind of doing the same thing that we all do, right, around the country. And there hadn't been a ton of time to kind of step back and realize how cool this is for me. Coming home to my alma mater, my family's here. I was able to take my dad to dinner last night on Father's Day. That's cool. I hadn't been able to do
Yeah.
that in how long. So there have been moments here, but man, you're just in the mix doing the job. So it's hard sometimes to kind of step back and really appreciate it.
Now, this is a full circle moment for you, as you mentioned, coming back to your alma mater, coming back to your home state. Growing up as a kid in the state of Minnesota, what was Gopher basketball to Niko Medved?
Well, I grew up and I eventually worked for him, Clem Haskins, and people back then. I mean, Clem really had this program rolling, and I remember my dad taking me to games when I was a little kid here, and when Clem really came in here and turned it around, and some of those old teams that went to the Sweet 16 and then the Final Eight, and the barn was packed
Yeah.
every night, and so my memories were it was a tough ticket to get. People loved being here. There was a ton of energy and enthusiasm around the program, and that's my memory. Growing up being around the program.
So for you personally, this is your fourth head coaching job in the last 12 years. So you've consistently moved up here. How do you explain your own meteoric rise in this profession?
I don't know, John. That's a great question, and I just kind of, I think we've stayed true to ourselves, and the things that the same ingredients and way that you do it works anywhere, in my opinion. Regardless of level, and so I think we've tried to stay true to ourselves. We hire great people, we recruit great young men and talented young men. I think the identity and the way that we've played and has really allowed us to be successful. But I think just staying true to ourselves and who we are, I think has really been the key, and that's the plan. John, to do the same thing here. We're not going to change, and I mean, you have to evolve, with the
Yeah.
times and what's going on. But we're not going to change who we are and what we do. That's allowed us to be successful.
Well, and obviously your coaching acumen really came to the forefront last season. Your Colorado State team played great basketball the last couple of months of the season. You won 11 games in a row late in the year. Why was your team in such a rhythm?
I think it sounds crazy, but we obviously had talented players. We had Nick Clifford, I think's going to get drafted in the
Yeah.
first round here. We had good depth, but I think it's really just the character of those guys. We got off to a tough start, kind of guys finding their roles, figuring it out how we were going to play together. But those guys just kept working, kept believing, trusting me and the other coaches, and I think it's because of that they were able to really dig in and turn it around. And once they started to build some confidence, boy, it was really fun. And yeah, down the stretch, I mean, I thought we were playing like a top 15 team in the country there that last month of the season. But I think it's a testament to those guys, and it's always been important. But in today's day and age, where there's so many new faces on all these teams, at some point you're going to have some adversity, and do you have the right kind of guys who are going to dig in and fight through that? And I really think that was the key to it last year. And then obviously we had some great players too, but Neek played terrific for us, and particularly down the stretch, and he really was a great leader. And then some other guys really, some of the young guys really came on the scene: Kyan Evans, Jalen Crocker Johnson, and then some of these older guys too, who really found their niche. And maybe they were playing a bigger role at another place, but they came off the bench for us last year, and they really bought into those roles.
Now, obviously, when you win a game in the NCAA tournament, as you did against Memphis, you set yourself up for a chance to go to the second weekend, and you were inches away before you lost to Maryland on a buzzer beater by Derek Queen. I'm curious, out of all the losses you've had in your head coaching career, is that the one you think you're going to remember when you're old and gray?
It's right up there. It's I'm embarrassed to say, and I will, because we've started practice. I haven't watched the end of it yet.
Wow.
The game, and I will. It was a phenomenal college basketball game, and
Yeah.
our guys had a ton of confidence going into the game, and thought we played well enough to win. But it all happened so fast, in that moment we hit the shot to go up and,
Yep.
but I mean, I've seen the shot that Derek made. But what do you do? I mean,
Yeah.
he made an unbelievable shot. He's a pro. He's going left off the wrong foot, banks it in. It's March Madness. And
Yeah.
I think March Madness, everybody sees those moments, the team that makes the shot to go, but you realize there's another team on the other side of it that played great just to be in that situation. And we happen to be on the other side of it. But that one really, really hurt. Going to the Sweet 16 is really, really hard to do. And it would have been unbelievable for our Colorado State program.
Now, if he misses that shot, you're going to the Sweet 16 with a team that was not in the position to earn an at-large berth to the tournament, but played great down the stretch and took the automatic qualifier. But he made the shot. Then you need to recalibrate things and make a life decision shortly thereafter. What was the emotional roller coaster like losing that game to Maryland and then having to tell Colorado State that you were leaving to go to take the Minnesota job?
It was really hard, John. It's the unfortunate thing about our business is the timing. It used to be they hired coaches at the Final Four, right?
Right.
And
Right.
it's just things have changed, so much in our world and obviously in the players' world too. But those things are already kind of decided. And yeah, you're in Seattle, and 20 hours later you're on a plane and you're in Minneapolis, starting a new job. And really difficult because, I love Colorado State. I love the people. I love the players. We had so much invested there. I'll tell you what, though, just, because of your relationship with the players, they all knew, I mean, I think they all know what was going on. And what was really cool for me is, when I did have an opportunity to talk to them in person, it's just, they all understood, it didn't make it any easier, and there's tears and all that stuff, but how many of them, have reached out and said, Coach, we're so happy for you. They knew what this meant to me. And so it was really, really difficult, but it was really neat for me to see, most of the players' reactions to it personally. And that really meant a lot.
It's interesting. You look at obviously that roller coaster emotionally, and then you're thrusted into a new job at Minnesota. You mentioned the grace period now that coaches used to have when they took over a program. It's not like that anymore. Now that you've endured this at the non-power conference level and you're starting now at the power conference level, is it possible to still build a program, or are you just in this climate building a team every single year?
No, I 100% you can build a program, and there are programs who tend to be successful, through the last 10 to 20 years, and have found a way through this last 4 or 5 year period and have continued to be successful. I thought we were doing it at CSU. We've been to the tournament 3 of the last four years there. Is it different? Yes. Do you have to evolve with the times? Yes. But I still think the most successful programs, they have an identity. They know who they are. They know who they're going to recruit. They still find a way to retain key players. We may not retain as many guys as we did in the past, but you still have to find a way to have some continuity in your program. And that's the challenge for us, is to start to build a program, start to have some continuity. Some guys are here for multiple years and buy into what you're doing. And yes, it may look a little bit different, John, than it did 10 to 15 years ago, but absolutely you can build a program. You have to.
Niko, you look at obviously what the Mountain West has been able to do, and you and I have talked about it so much the last couple of years. It's amazing the volume that this league consistently continues to get in the NCAA tournament. But it felt like, and you've lived this as a coach, you had to be near flawless sometimes in the non-conference portion of the schedule or close to it to have a chance at an at-large berth. What is it like now entering a league like the Big Ten, where you're going to have a plethora of quad one opportunities at your disposal?
It's a different feeling when that Big Ten schedule comes out and you see your 1 plays and your 2 plays, and you start looking out. We're at Purdue, at Illinois, here. It's daunting. There's definitely, but like you said, there also, you have a good week and your whole outlook changes. You have a bad week and you're looking up at the schedule like, oh my God, are we going to win again? But you're right, at the Mountain West level, which is a phenomenal league, it's impossible. You put so much time into just trying to schedule non-conference opportunities. And then when you get them, you almost have to be flawless. You make a mistake and it doesn't work. And we lived that last year. But it's a whole different feeling. But at the same point in time, I do think, your avenue to get in the NCAA tournament is much clearer at this level.
Is Minnesota a harder job now in an 18-team Big Ten with UCLA, USC, Washington, and Oregon?
It's a great question. I think some of that's to be determined. There's probably part of it that makes it harder, not just for us, for everybody with the quantity of teams. But at the same point in time, I do think there's more access to the tournament, than there's ever been. And you're in a situation. I mean, look at what the SEC did last year, and you're going to see these teams that have over half of their teams are going to have an opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament. And I think the Big Ten is in a position to do that as well. So yes, it does make it daunting, but again, there's also more opportunity than there's ever been.
Minnesota has only had 6 NCAA tournament appearances since 2000. Why have the Gophers not been able to sustain success?
It's a great question, and you follow it from a distance. There's been some really good coaches that have taken a crack at it, and maybe goes back to my point before. Can Minnesota find an identity of who we are, how we play, how we recruit? Develop a consistency of maybe putting guys at the next level, that guys feel like they can come here and be successful, compete at the highest level, engaging our fans and our community. It's here, John. I mean, people, when you're winning, boy, they really get behind you. But, they come up with a lot of different reasons why there hasn't been consistent success. I guess I would say that I've been at some programs where maybe that's been the case, and we've been able to find a way to turn it into that. And that's our challenge. I think, for me, this is my third job at a place I'd been an assistant before. And I think coming back someplace where you had been an assistant, you really sort of have a vision for the program, what it takes to be successful here at a place like Minnesota, how we recruit, who we need to touch. And I believe we have that here.
Niko, what are your impressions of the roster you've put together?
It's interesting. I really like them as people, John. In fact, I was out this morning in the parking lot, and our chef here comes up to me and says, "Coach, man, I've had an opportunity to really meet your guys. I really love your guys. They're really nice young men. I really love the way they interact. They're so polite and I think just who they are as people, and just in a short period of time, they've really been coachable. They bought in with great energy. Now it's early. Everybody's able to do that in the first week or so. But that really stands out to me about this team. We have so many new guys, right? 11 new guys, whatever it is. And so that's difficult to do. But I think the staff and us done a great job of recruiting the right kinds of people. And I think if we do that, we're going to continue to get better.
Non-conference scheduling was everything at Colorado State. It's not quite as important in Minnesota, but it's still obviously very, very important. I know you're going to play a couple of games in Palm Springs in the Acrisure MTE, which is a very, very solid field. You also have a return game with Missouri as part of an old home and home series. Is there anything else of significance on Minnesota's non-conference schedule for next season?
We're really working hard to try to find another, neutral game that we can play against a great opponent. We really need to do that. It's difficult this late in the game with dates and everything, but we're really trying to find one more neutral game against a really, really good opponent. That's going to be great for us. And so we still got a little bit of work to do in the non-conference schedule, but, hopefully moving forward for us, we're going to be able to find that right mix of having challenging games. Your MTEs obviously are critical, maybe starting a series with a real quality opponent, and some of those one-off neutrals have got to be great for us.
Niko, final thing. I know you're putting together a brand new roster. I know it's a brand new job. I know it's the Big Ten. I know there's 18 teams, but what are the biggest things that you want to accomplish in your first year as head coach of the Gophers?
I think really starting to set kind of the identity of who we are and how we want to play and how we want to do things. And that's with, the style of play to the kinds of people we recruit, how we connect with our fan base and our stakeholders, just how we go about our business every day. And I know it sounds really, really simple, but I think establishing those things right out of the gate, I think is really, really important. You only get one chance here in your first year to kind of set the tone that way. And so I think that's what we want to do. And, Because I believe if we do that, I think the guys will continue to get better. We'll find a way to get some results. And I think if we do that, we're going to have a really, really good foundation here for what we need to do in the future. And so, I'm not up here to talk about how many games we need to win or that, because who knows? I don't know what that's going to look like, but I also don't want to set limits either.
Right.
Every year, right? There's teams that surprise and are better than people think. And people who, I mean, I don't know how you guys do your preseason top 25s. I know you have to. I know that's part of what the fans want, but I mean, that just seems impossible to me in today's landscape. So we can't really worry about what anyone else is doing. We just got to focus on what we're doing and try to start the foundation of building this in the same way that we've done it at all these other places.
That's Niko Medved, multiple NCAA tournaments at Colorado State, obviously trying to do the same at Minnesota. Niko, we appreciate a couple minutes, know how busy you are, and as always, look forward to staying connected along the way.
Hey, John, thanks for having me.
You got it. That's Minnesota head coach Niko Medved. We'll return after this.